With Module 23 Dragon Slayer, there have been a few changes, and I'd like to go over and answer the question, what is the best single target damage companion that you want to be using within this module? Now, I won't just go over one singular companion, I will go over more than 150 of them. I've went and tested them all out, and this was module 22, and I've got to go and update this, check these companions, make sure they're still dealing the same amount of damage, and if not, update the amount of DPS they can deal. Before we get started, I'd like to give a massive thank you to these channel members for the added extra support. Now, why would you look for a single target damage companion? Well, when you're running content that requires you to go up against a singular boss, then having a companion that can deal a lot of damage to that boss is best. And right now, we have Dragon Hunts, and you're usually just fighting this big ass dragon, and potentially you'd want to be bringing in a companion that can assist you in dealing a lot of damage. However, with the change of Module 22, there has been an update to the companion enhancement, which makes augment companions a very viable choice, and as a new player I would highly recommend picking up either the Owlbear, the Festive Tiger, or the Icosahedron Ion Stone from Draconic Rage Chromatic Scales. This free legendary pack once you get to 4,000. Each of those three augments are really good for buffing damage stats. But personally, I found it better to run with an active damaging companion that could either excel in a lot of damage or simply provide an extra buff to your whole party. And there are many ones out there. For example, the tutor has just returned, and that's great for providing everybody with an extra offensive stat boost. So yes, we had to go and retest all of these companions and see where they would rank. Along with that, I added a bunch of new ones. For example, the Book Imp, Celeste, the new Dragon Hunter, along with the Durgar Guard, and the list goes on. And you can see each and every one of those companions that I've gone and retested, including the Ice Sprite, which does surprisingly well, along with the Tutor, which I managed to recently get my hands on. Now, as per Module 23, and some changes that I have noticed upon retesting these companions, is that the Crab was pretty dramatically reduced in its damage output down to 21,000 instead of that 30,000. And otherwise the Spine Devil also doesn't seem to deal as much damage as it did before, down to 27,000. And surprisingly, the Gith Yankee is actually dealing a little bit more damage, coming into one of the top 10. So let's get this list updated. But before we do so, you can see a quick chart here of the damage of these top contending companions, excluding the Paranoid Delusion. And we have the top 12 here, from the Pseudo Dragon to the Wolf, with the Wolf being the worst one there at 0%, all the way to the Pseudo Dragon dealing 36% more damage than the Wolf. And you can see the rest of them there, how they rank against each other. And this is the new top 12, or top 10 down to the Armored Orc Wolf. But again, that's excluding the Paranoid Delusion, which doesn't seem to have changed in its effectiveness for these four classes, and the Paladin, it's about the same. And so there we go. We have over 150 of those companions tested out, 165 to be precise, and they're now listed all here on the left column as the DPS order, and on the right side the alphabetical order. You can see this testing stats right there. We're doing it against a single dummy in Chult with combat advantage and the same stats. And you can see CA is combat advantage, so this is how much they had. Like, for example, you can see the note on the owl. It tends to just attack from all sides of the target, and so if it's just me there, it's hard to give full combat advantage. So we can't see the full potential of the damage it can deal, but you can see there's something missing by the combat advantage benefit only being 75%, whereas you could get that to a full 100%, potentially dealing 25% more damage. That would definitely put it near the top there, but if it realistically can't do that against a dummy, then who's to say it's going to do it against then a boss? For the rest, you can see the Ice Sprites there in the top 11. However, if you get rid of the Paranoid Delusion, since They are pretty much class specific. You can see them dealing there, only slightly better than the pseudo dragon on the warlock and the ranger, ever so slightly that I would just take the pseudo dragon anyway because it has better burst damage, but on the rogue and the cleric it can deal significantly more damage. And you can see each of these companions that have that little note there, you can read what it says, and each of those have kind of some special abilities, and I'll go through more of them, adding some more notes. Now, if I miss any companions here, or you feel any of the companions need a retest, just let me know. There can potentially be changes made throughout patches, so I can't keep this up to date all the time. There's just too many companions to be having to test them all again, and Cryptic Studios tend to make changes whenever they see fit without even telling us. So again, if any of those changes happen that you feel a companion is performing much differently than on my document, let me know. Again, there'll be a link to that document in all of my videos in the description. I have plenty of links there to lots of useful videos. And yes, you may have seen I tested the tutor and it's very underwhelming. You can see him ranked down there at 155. I added the ghost, I added the hunting drake, the Kenku archer, the red cat Powery, normal sprite, the book imp, the barbarian shaman, the Duergar guard and the Duergar thurge, along with the flaming skull and the dragon hunter. Again, you can find them all by looking them up alphabetically, seeing what encounter DPS they have, and you'll be able to find them on the rank here as this goes from the highest to the lowest. I'll do my best to keep it updated and let you guys know of any changes of upcoming companions when they do happen. If I find a companion does surprisingly well in certain piece of content, I'll also let you guys know. Again, all of these tests are done against a dummy, like this guy right here. Just attacks a dummy for a period of time. I make sure they have combat advantage. I make sure my stats don't change. And so we can get a consistent controlled test. And then we can use that test to compare them against all the others. And that's kind of the only feasible way to do it. If you're just running content and killing things, then it can be RNG of whether you crit or not. And that will result in how much damage is left for your companion to deal. And it doesn't work like that. It's easier to get a controlled test, see exactly how much they can deal compared to one another in that controlled test, and then you can go out in the real world environment and based off that give a test again to maybe the top 10, and then you can see how they compare against each other in, let's say, a dragon hunt. Now, these dragon hunts, especially the ancient ones, active companions really have a rough time. The amount of knockbacks is insane, and the companion is not going to have a lot of time on target, so they might not deal a lot of damage. And thus, either using a companion that has high burst damage on a cooldown that's relatively short could be much better than a companion that has high sustained damage, which is all these companions in the test. This is their DPS, their average damage per second over about 10 minutes in a fight. You can see 28 minutes. Sometimes I go AFK for quite a while. And so hopefully this has been somewhat insightful to you guys as what companions to be choosing. Again, it's very broad. There are so many out there. If I missed any, you can feel free to let me know. And the easiest solution would be to give me a copy of it on the preview server. And that way I can go and test it. And so again, I'd like to give a special thank you to these channel members for helping me keep my channel going. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.